They weren't searching for anything unusual, just capturing wildlife at a distance, like always. Then, without warning, the scene stopped behaving the way it should, and the ordinary no longer fit the landscape. Silent takeover. It was supposed to be a normal safari stop, just a pause near the forest floor while someone adjusted their lens. The camera drifted downward and caught a tarantula standing completely still. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then the zoom tightened. Its body was covered in pale, delicate growths that looked almost like dust or frost. But there was no wind, no cold, no movement at all. The spider didn't react to the presence of people. It didn't try to flee. It just remained there, suspended in place. Later, someone identified what was happening. Cordyceps, a fungus that enters its host quietly and takes over from within. What stayed with viewers wasn't violence. It was how calm it looked. Maternal charge. The delta was quiet that morning, just reeds and slow water brushing against narrow canoes. A guide whispered, pointing toward a small herd moving along the bank. No one expected anything beyond a photograph. The surface burst upward without warning. A female elephant surged forward, placing herself between the boats and her calves. The impact overturned the lightweight canoes almost instantly. Cameras dipped under brown water. Voices broke into shouting, and the low guttural sound of her charge carried across the channel. Later, one tourist said he truly believed it would end there. It wasn't mystery. It was protection. What unsettles most is how quickly calm became chaos. Eye contact. It started as another slow drive across open savanna, tires rolling over dry earth, cameras half raised. Inside one vehicle, a pitbull sat near the open window, panting in the heat. Nothing felt tense, not yet. Movement shifted in the tall grass. A male lion stepped out and began walking straight toward the car. No rush, no display, just steady steps, closing the distance. The dog didn't retreat. It leaned forward and locked eyes with the lion, as if refusing to look away. The space between them disappeared. The lunge was sudden. The lion's jaws closed around the pit bull and held. What unsettles people most isn't the attack. It's how still the dog remained. Thin fabric. Night in Kagalagadi felt complete. The kind of darkness that swallows depth and distance. A couple lay inside their tent. No fire burning, no engines nearby. Just canvas and open wilderness stretching in every direction. Then a damp, dragging sound brushed across the outer wall. 3 lionesses had gathered around the tent. Attracted by the scent of stored water, they began licking the fabric slowly, their rough tongues pulling against the thin material. Their faces pressed so close that their breath shifted the surface inward. Inside, no one moved. No lights flicked on. No voices rose. There was nothing dramatic about it. Just a layer of cloth between sleep and something else entirely. Vanished trail. Near Ghost Mountain Inn, Elaine McSorley stepped out for what should have been an ordinary walk. The paths were marked, the vegetation familiar. It wasn't remote wilderness, just open safari terrain. People moved through every day. She didn't come back. Search teams spread out quickly. Drones traced the tree line. Dogs followed every accessible stretch of ground. Boats checked nearby water routes. There were no footprints leading away from the trail. No torn clothing caught on branches. No disturbance in the soil suggesting a struggle. It felt less like an incident and more like an absence, days turned into weeks. The landscape remained unchanged. What unsettles most isn't violence, it's how quietly someone can disappear. Night perimeter. It began as a faint shift in the dark, something just beyond the reach of the firelight. Most people inside the tents were already asleep, unaware of movement gathering at the edge of camp. In South Africa, a pride of lions approached quietly, their silhouettes passing between tents and parked vehicles. No roaring, no charge, just slow, deliberate steps. Eyes caught what little light there was and gave it back. One lion paused near the perimeter, head raised as if measuring distance. Another moved behind the vehicles, unhurried. It didn't look like chaos. It looked like evaluation. By morning, the campsite remained intact. What lingers isn't damage. It's the awareness that something had been watching. Last frame. It happened during what should have been an ordinary riverbank stop. A wildlife photographer stepped closer to the edge and slipped into the water. At first, the current looked slow, the surface barely disturbed. For a brief second, it seemed manageable. Then the water shifted in a way that didn't match the calm around it. Hippos often appear distant and still from afar. Up close, they react without hesitation. What followed unfolded quickly, mostly out of frame. The camera was recovered later. Its final image showed a hippopotamus with blood along its muzzle, staring directly into the lens. No blur, no visible struggle, just stillness and eye contact. Seconds later, the recording stopped. No higher ground. The vehicle had stopped only moments earlier, just long enough for someone to lift a phone and focus. Dust settled around the tires. Nothing felt urgent. A lion approached with steady steps, head low, eyes fixed. Then something in its posture changed. The shoulders rose, the pace shortened. The air felt tighter, even through the recording. The lunge came fast, striking the vehicle with force. Voices broke into shouting. Doors shifted. In the confusion, one tourist ran and climbed the nearest tree. The camera kept rolling. From above, his breathing filled the audio. Wind moved through the branches. Below, the lion circled, looking up. There was no glass now, only height. Riverbend figure. It was a quiet afternoon along a bend in the Dniester River. A wildlife blogger had set up near the reeds, filming migratory birds moving low across the water. The current looked slow, the light soft, nothing unusual in frame. Then the reeds shifted. Across the muddy bank stood what first resembled a horse, upright, solid, still, but the proportions didn't settle. The neck stretched too long, curving upward in a smooth arc that felt more serpentine than mammal. The surface of its body looked textured, almost scaled in places. Its legs pressed into the mud, ending in broad shapes that didn't resemble hooves. It didn't lower its head to drink. It seemed to listen. When it stepped forward, the river moved. Shoreline hybrid. Two teenagers were walking along a dirt access road near a shallow river bend, somewhere remote enough that no vehicles had passed in hours. The afternoon light stretched shadows across cracked sand. Even the water looked still. One of them started filming footprints near the edge, laughing at how sharply they showed. Then he went quiet. About 30 meters ahead, something stood on the shoreline. At first, it registered as a tall person, upright, shoulders slightly forward. As the focus tightened, the outline became harder to place. The upper body looked human, long arms, fingers curved, extended. Below the waist, a thick reptilian tail dragged through the sand, leaving a visible groove. It didn't react. It just stood there. Pasture anomaly. For several days, ranchers had been following signs of something large moving through dry savanna grass. Fences bent inward without breaking. Water troughs were found overturned. After sunset, the cattle refused to graze. They assumed it was a bull, maybe a heavy boar pushing through at night. Instead, they saw it standing alone in the yellow field as the light dropped. No birds above, no wind moving the grass. The body looked swollen beyond proportion, like a bison stretched too tightly across its frame. But the head didn't match. The muzzle was narrow, teeth exposed, lips drawn back slowly. When it stepped forward, the grass lowered before contact. Vertical standoff. For 3 nights, something crossed the open savanna without setting off a single motion sensor. Cattle scattered, as if reacting to a presence no one else could see. By the 4th afternoon, 4 ranchers blocked its path with a wooden panel in open terrain. The sky was clear. Even the wind had gone still. The figure shifted and rose upright on its hind legs, balanced like a ram preparing to strike. Thick spiral horns curved backward in clean symmetry. But the torso didn't match the posture. The chest looked elongated, ribs faintly outlined beneath dark skin, shaped in almost human proportion. The forelimbs seemed capable of more than running. When it opened its mouth, the ground seemed to hum. Open plain figure. A wildlife photographer was following distant movement across rolling plains when a dark shape rose from a shallow dip in the land. The sun was dropping behind the mountains, turning the grass into bands of gold. Through the long lens, it first looked like someone dragging livestock. As the focus sharpened, the proportions refused to settle. The upper body was clearly human. Broad shoulders, dark hair, arms pulling a rope tied to a goat sliding across the ground. Below the waist, the form shifted into the muscular frame of a horse. The line between the two wasn't abrupt. It flowed. Midfield, the figure stopped. Its head turned toward the camera, despite the distance. After that moment, it no longer felt far away. River emergence. A small transport boat moves slowly along a wide, muddy river beneath dense tropical canopy. The engine sputtered once, then idled unevenly. The current pressed gently against the hull. No birds crossed overhead. The surface stayed unbroken. Something lifted from the starboard side. At first, it resembled a log rising upright from the water. But it kept rising. A thick, scaled neck surfaced, segmented like overlapping plates. Water streamed down along its ridges. The head that followed wasn't fully serpent. The mouth curved outward, hardened at the edges. One pale eye shifted slightly before fixing on the boat. It didn't lunge. It didn't make sound. It simply held there, balanced against the current. Heatline predator. A wildlife research team had been looking into livestock losses near remote brushland, bordered by low volcanic hills. The sun hung low and sharp over the terrain. No wind moved the grass. Even insects seemed absent. The air felt stalled. Through a telephoto lens, one investigator stopped speaking mid-sentence. About 80 meters ahead, something massive crouched in the dust. At first glance, it resembled a golden eagle resting on the ground, but the scale didn't fit. Its folded wings dragged outward like a heavy cloak, talons pressed into dry soil hard enough to fracture the surface. A crown of reddish, Rigid feathers, framed eyes set unnaturally forward. The radios crackled with interference. No one moved closer.
It's flying!
Canal surface. Near the edge of a safari property, a field worker was closing irrigation gates at dusk when he noticed the canal had gone still. The current usually moved thick and brown, but that evening it looked sealed, almost heavy. No insects skimmed it. No birds dipped toward it. A shape lifted slowly from the surface. It didn't splash or surge. It rose in one steady motion, rounded and dark, strands of wet hair clinging to it. The head stopped just above the waterline. The skull looked compressed. Where a snout might have been, there was a flattened hollow. Beneath it, uneven teeth showed in a jaw wider than the face allowed. It didn't blink. Behind it, the water tightened into a brief spiral. Wrong shadow. 4 workers followed their dogs into a clearing, expecting to find a scavenger bird picking at something in the brush. The barking had been frantic, sharp, insistent. When they stepped into the red earth clearing, the noise stopped. Crouched ahead of them was a winged figure far larger than any vulture they had seen. Its torso held upright, wings folded tightly along its sides. The face unsettled them first, wrinkled, almost expressive. Eyes set deep, fixed forward in a way that didn't feel animal. It didn't try to flee. One man lifted a rope, unsure of what he was facing. The creature opened its beak slowly and released a long, uneven breath. Its body stayed still. Its shadow shifted differently. Dust script. A local explorer was heading toward a dry ravine when he noticed something crouched in the middle of a savanna track. From a distance, he assumed it was an injured dog, resting in the heat. He lifted his phone and walked a few steps closer. The shape didn't adjust or retreat. Its body was low to the ground, covered in dark fur, balanced on 4 limbs. But the head didn't fit. Bald, creased, framed by thin white strands that caught the light. The face looked elderly, human. With long fingers, it traced deliberate marks into the dust.
Look at its face.
Slow movements, repeated shapes. It never raised its eyes. When the man stopped moving, the figure shifted slightly, and something like a whisper reached the microphone. Mounted silence. A truck driver heading back along a rural stretch of road saw a brush ahead shake violently. Thinking it was livestock breaking loose, he slowed and let the dash camera keep recording. The savanna on either side looked dry and empty. An enormous wild boar burst from the grass at full speed, cutting across the track without hesitation. What unsettled him wasn't the animal. Straddling its back was a thin green figure with elongated limbs and pointed ears. Its hands and feet gripped the bristled hide with ease, balanced low and steady, like it had done it before. It didn't shout. It leaned forward, close to the boar's head. For a brief second, it turned toward the road. Final sighting. A man steps into an open field and starts recording. The grass stretches flat in every direction. The sky looks pale, overcast. Nothing about the setting feels staged. Then the frame settles. At the center of the field stands a massive figure. From the waist up, it looks like a muscular man. Broad shoulders, defined arms, bald head turned slightly toward the camera. Below the waist, the body changes completely. The lower half is thick and rounded, animal-like, blending into 4 sturdy legs planted in the grass. It isn't running. It isn't charging. It simply stands there, facing the person filming. There's no visible panic in the recording, no screaming, just distance and presence.